Hello and welcome along once more to the Left Wing Back podcast. We are back in the Talbot Hotel. Our kind sponsors have afforded us their beautiful Tyndall suite for today's episode. We got on so well a couple of weeks back. They invited us back and it's a fabulous room, fabulous people here around us, and sure, we couldn't ask for better. And of course we are here in association with all our partners this year: Infinite Energy, Solar PV Specialists, DigiWorks Marketing, Arboretum, Porrick Dunn Motors, PFT Travel, Talbot Hotel, of course, here in Carlow. And don't forget, check out Talbot Fitness and Brew Bar and Bistro, located on site here at the Talbot Hotel. They put a lot of money into this place. It's looking immaculate. Come down and check it out there. Just a stone's throw away from Dr. Cullen as well. And speaking of Dr. Cullen, we are going to go through all the county finals, of course, from the weekend. I think a few of those teams might have had kit from Curra Sports, who are our kind sponsors and have been for the year as well. Emmett and Shane Moore, located in the Fighting Cocks. Open common business. Top quality sportswear, check them out. Rail Wheeling Limited, they've been with us for quite some time as well. We want to give them a big shout out. Again, located not too far from Netwatch Cullen Park. I think a few lads were fit for a skip themselves this morning. And Property Partners Boogie, of course. Contact Tommy Boogie there, St. Mullins manager. He might look after you, whether you're looking to rent a house, buy a house, sell it, whatever the case may be. Tommy look after you. And Pat Ahern Photography, who along with Tomas Walsh have provided us with fantastic photos throughout the year. So let's get down to the action. I'm joined here by Brian O'Donoghue, who was quite busy for the Left Wing Back over the past couple of weeks. We've got some great feedback to our content. The two Brians and a Briar piece in particular seems to perform quite well. You seem to enjoy it?
Super, yeah. Two lads I've always wanted to kind of
have a chat with, yeah.
Like, you know, so delighted that they did it, and they were great crack as well, you know. For good banter. I
thought they were excellent, like, and you know, the raw honesty from both guys as well, because you know, sometimes when people come into an environment like this, they mightn't be overly as comfortable maybe as we might be, because we're used to doing it. But I thought the two lads felt very natural. That's credit to yourself, of course, as well. And you know, the way they're articulating their points, it wasn't cliched bullshit, for want of a better way of putting it.
And I think, you know what, people are terrified that they'll upset or offend somebody, so you tend to get a lot of kind of sure, look at, and sure, I suppose, and you know, and the two boys in one sense don't know really how to do that. They just know, especially when it's talking about football, all they know is just kind of speaking their mind, and they're good lads, you know.
There's a raw honesty to it, yeah. And I mean, I remember interviewing Brian Murphy after the 2021 final, and I think one of the first things I offered up was possibly an apology for completely writing them off, but I actually couldn't see anything other than Éire Óg win. They were so good at the time, Éire Óg were. But he said, look, you know, his words were, I think, I could understand why we weren't favourites, but we couldn't understand how they were such overwhelming favourites in a game like this. And again, it was refreshing to see and refreshing to hear. I think he's the makings of a good pundit there if he ever wants a career. And Briar, likewise, I think Briar enjoyed it after, did he?
I think so, yeah, definitely. But you know what? The two boys love talking about football, and there's so many lads like that in the county, and sometimes it's maybe about just asking lads to do it, you know, because there's lads in your club, there's lads in every club who are so willing to talk about it, and if you can get them into a comfortable environment, and it's coming from I suppose the point of view of a bit of crack more so than hard hitting analysis. Like, we don't have up to stats to follow up on games and stuff. So when it's about just your local GA club, and it's much probably easier for a county final as well. You know, it can't be. It wouldn't be as easy, I suppose, to get lads in who are maybe a club that have just maybe been relegated or something, or that kind of thing. But no, look, there's lads that have good banter all over the country.
There is, and look, again, I enjoyed our world tour. We got some fabulous stories. The feedback to Pat Butler's in particular.
But that's an incredible story.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, to go through a double bypass 3 years ago, you know, you think the whole thing is over, and as he says himself, you know, they said, well, no, get back going, get back doing something. And there he was, the other day, bringing the sticks for Fenna as they became intermediate champions, Talbot Hotel intermediate champions, I should say. And yeah, great stories. And Paddy Byrne, likewise, Richard Carney, Dougie Hickey, all the guys, Craig Carney, and a little cameo from Kieran Moran coming in. Yeah, but I mean, you couldn't write it. Yeah.
And but going back to Pat Butler, like, I think the most important thing he said was, if you're playing sport, just go get checked. I know the GA are running out after is it Dylan Quirk? There's the screening thing happening, so you know, and I think sometimes we can think that just your man is as fit as a fiddle and he's thin as a rake. You don't have to be as big as us to have our conditions, you know. For the sake of having your blood pressure checked, having your blood sugars checked, simple stuff. Yeah, check that.
And that's the thing, and it was the trigger of the symptom, I think, after that kind of frightened me the most when he said it was just tiredness.
Yeah.
So like there is a lot to be said for men are useless for, I think, by and large, for not getting checked.
Especially when your missus has just had a baby and you're not going to tell anyone you're tired because you'll be laughed at.
No, and you could end up with 2 black eyes, which nobody really wants.
Yeah.
But so look, that's the story from the lead-in. The games have happened, of course. We have 3 new county champions, and we're going to have to wait at least another week for a few more. And of course the senior Camogie and junior Camogie finals are also on this weekend in Netwatch Cullen Park on Sunday. Neighbourly take on Michael, another edition of that, and Michael are in the junior final as well against Mullinster Rangers. That's at 1:15, I think, on Sunday, Netwatch Cullen Park, and the seniors at 3. So the best luck to all the teams involved in that as well. But the senior football championship final obviously was a draw yesterday, Brino, and it's going to go to a replay. We know that's going to be at 6 o'clock in Netwatch Cullen Park this coming Saturday, and we will do a bit of a preview and a review at the end, I think, because things are still ongoing. We might start, actually, as we did, I think, in this right room a few weeks back, with all things junior, the Talbot Hotel Junior B Football Championship final, which is a good place to start from your point of view. Rathvilly were overwhelming favourites the whole year. They were made work for this one the other day against Iraq.
They really were, and I was saying to one of the lads afterwards that I think, especially maybe at the junior B grade, it's different. A match in that venue is different, say, to a match down in the training centre or a league match out in one of your own, at home or away or whatever. And it can shrink lads a little bit, and lads that would normally maybe play with the shackles off, maybe just take half a step back and don't want to make a mistake in front of the cameras and the stand and that kind of thing, And there was so much, like Mark Corcoran playing full forward for Aero. Now I think that he had to be taken off with a bit of a knock, but he got a crucial goal, started the first half, early in the first half, and if Mark had been able to stay on the pitch, maybe Aero would have kind of kept it closer to the end. But and
there was only 4 in it in the end after, wasn't there?
There was.
And, the goal for Rathvilly before half time, was it that changed it?
Absolute, total game changer. Party quite instrumental, and then Ger Kavanagh with the last pass across to him. It was and Jack White, Jack Carroll finished really well. But without that goal, you're looking at a much cagier affair, I'd say. And
but Aero don't they always turn up in finals, really, regardless of what it is? They have that tendency, like
absolutely, like rightly or wrongly, right? And this could be a cliche, and people would tut when I say it, but the red and white jersey, with the history that they have, there's 3 or 4 points on the board. I don't care what the grade is, And I grew up playing under 12, under 14, under 16, and other than one under 16 match where we got a draw with them out in Rathvilly one morning, I was never on a team that beat Airrock. Never. So maybe it's a personal complex I have, but
it's ingrained though.
And I'm sure the same in the hurling. If lads are going out to play against
MLR,
Mullins, or
like someone actually, I can't remember who said this the other day, but it's a very good point that MLR have won so many finals without playing well because they're MLR, and they just know how to win, and they will turn up. They don't see fear, and like I guess that Rathvilly side was largely quite a young one as well, wasn't it? Like
fairly young. I'd say the oldest on it was probably Alan De Breyer when he came on at 38 ish. Jeffrey at centre back, 34, almost 35. Trying to think who else are the elder statesmen on it, but
other than that, it's a team of chaps, like really.
More or less a team of chaps, but probably a team of chaps, but probably not quite as young as their old lads. I'd say,
they had a lot of young guns there too, and obviously a few impressive performers. You mentioned Screw, the old reliable, a boy named Screw. I play on Johnny Cash song, but he's far from a boy now, but he has some boy to take a score.
It's a wonderful left foot. His relations in Rathvilly, of course.
Has anyone ever had a wand of a right foot?
No.
Just I hear this the whole time, right? It's like as if you can't have a wand of a right foot, you can only have a wand of a left foot.
And speaking as a left footer, I can tell you, we're the ones that belong with the wands, and
no sectarianism. No sectarianism intended there, Saju. Yeah.
No, and like I think, because most lads are predominantly right-footed, you're going to have to give left-footed lads something, like,
Yeah.
But I do think
there is a kind of an easiness on the eye, though, a little bit easier on the eye when you have a good left-footed player.
Yeah.
Isn't there? Like, I mean, down through the years, Kieran McDonald, closer to home here, Broderick, Brian Murphy, our man that we just have been talking about. So, there's something. Shane O'Neill.
I'm going to say something to you now, right? And going to be laughed at for saying it, but
go for it.
A couple of times
we'll be laughed at anyway, sure. That's what we're here.
A couple of times down the years in training, marking Brian Murphy, and I always reckoned. Now, no one stopped Brian Murphy scoring in training, but I always reckoned, being a fellow left footer, that I could just about maybe see what he was going to do or think about what he was going to do before.
An interesting point.
Still couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
But I reckoned there was a half inch. I was getting a half inch closer to stopping him than anybody else. Now,
yeah, because you had to feel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I get where you're going from there. 100%. But going back to the other day. So Rathvilly, would you say worthy winners? Yeah,
ultimately they were. Yeah, I think you mentioned the goal being the turning point, and the Erogue had a couple of bad misses. Like Liam Ryan kicked 2 worldies, absolute worldies.
He's a great player,
a super player. Hard to believe he's playing junior football.
Yeah.
But then he did miss what looked like a handy one in the second half, and they had a free, that a close enough in free that they I think put wide as well. And they were 2 crucial scores that I think actually affected confidence more so than affected scoreboard and stuff. So they were crucial, and but like it was great from our Philly perspective. It was great. Obviously, Jeffrey, the brother, being the captain, sweet for the family and that, and it was. I tell you what, for Junior B, like 10 years ago, Junior B in Carlow was like actually 10 years ago was
it was like the Puck Fair. It was very loose, like.
I think we won it. I think we won it in 2013 or 2014. Was it? I played. Come on, so, and I can tell you, standard was brutal.
Yeah,
it's changed dramatically. It means a lot now for to win a Junior B, whereas before it didn't. Like
Yeah.
And I think you said that Rathvilly were favourites all the year. There's probably enough good players in that team that they can maybe compete at Junior A. It's probably close to a Junior A team.
Mm-hmm.
And then saying that, looking at the standard of the Junior A final yesterday, sorry to bring it up, I actually wonder, is the gap going to be huge?
Yeah, well, look, it's something Rathvilly will find out about fairly lively next year anyway, and that's a good thing. But commiserations, I suppose, to Rogan. A bit of a shout out to Liam Mulhall and Paul Bean, who did have a chat with you as well, because it's not easy to do so after a loss. Packy Fleming likewise.
And Paul Bean
for Loughlin, yeah.
Paul Bean came on as a sub for Rogue, right? And his first touch, he was in on goal. That hits the roof of the net, and it's the opposite of the when the frees go wide and messing with confidence. That hits the roof of the net. Different game.
Yeah. But the joys of it. So that was it was a mostly positive weekend for the Briar Kelly. We'll transition from Junior B into Junior A, which is going to be quite painful for myself here, I won't lie. But so the Briar, as we know, is over Ballin, and Ballin played out really close and not exactly unexpected, tough, hard physical encounter with Loughlin Bridge, which went to the wire. 111-1. It was 113-19 by the way in the junior final. I think it finished up, wasn't it? So 111-110 in the Junior A final, the Talbot Hotel Junior A final. And from my point of view, obviously if you go it for the Loughlin Bridge lads, the effort they've put in, getting David Kelly back this year, along with Parky and Croucho and Eddie the Kid and all the lads. David Kelly is a serious operator. Like, he was up with Arlis Killeen, he's been involved with inter-county sides. He knows his stuff from an S&C point of view, and I think he might still kick a bit of ball in that time, right? He's clued in. A senior club would be absolutely delighted to have this guy. He's really, really good, So for the effort that they've put in, and obviously not forgetting the players, you'd be good for them, like. And it's such a hard grade to get out of. As I've always said, we never got relegated down to it, but we're having a hard time getting out of it. It's not getting any easier. But I think to be quite honest and to be fair about it yesterday, right, there's 2 arguments to be made. When you get to, I don't know what it was, roughly about 5 minutes away from full time and you're 3 points up in a county final, you'd make the argument that you probably should see it out, especially when it's a low scoring affair like that. And the flip side of it then is that, and it's only my view now of course, I think Ballin were actually denied 2 other almost stonewall penalties. One was definitely stonewall, the other probably should have been given to, right? And if you factor that into the mix and their score and the wides Ballin hit, Loughlin hit a few as well, it's very hard to argue against the winner in this one. And the Ballin are deserving winners, and big turning point I suppose was probably Lee Conran getting black carded. I'd say it was probably needless enough, and I think we had momentum at the time, and again I don't want to be too hard on the chap. I haven't had a really distinguished disciplinary record myself, so far be it from me to be given. I don't intend, it's not personal or anything, but it did have a change in the game. It did swing momentum, Brian, you know?
It absolutely did. There's no doubt. And like moments in games, swing games.
Yeah.
And it can never be seen as no matter who got the black card.
Yeah.
It was going. If a Ballinladd had got the black card, Dr. Bridge would go on and win that game by 5 points, not 3, right?
Yeah.
Black card was huge. Interesting comparison between the intermediate game the night before. 1-3 to 6 points was the score at half time in that game. It was about a half time.
You're right. Yeah.
And 1-3 to 6. And both teams that had the 6 points, so the more scores on the board, ultimately were the team to win. Now, maybe that's a complete nonsense comparison, but it looks to me as if you know that like 6 scoring chances in a junior A final, or six converted scoring chances in a junior A final is in the first half is a good return. And I just wondered, like the resurgence of Loughlin Bridge then in the second half to go 3 points ahead. You just wonder, I suppose, how important is the start at junior level more so than
the finish. The
finish, you know, and you know, Ballin, to give them their credit, and Mousey sticking the penalty like it was a super penalty.
Took it very well.
Took it very well. And so I suppose, like, without rambling about it, back to moments in games, the black card and the penalty settled the game. Without those two, if those two things hadn't happened, it would have been 2 other things. You know what I mean? Like, so it's,
well, that's it. I mean, again, I'd find it hard to take that away from Ballin personally. I don't think that was the best version of Loughlin Bridge. Probably wasn't the best version of Ballin either, for what it's worth. But like the things that you'd associate with Loughlin Bridge, and again, it's county final day. It's hard, like, you know, as we said kind of earlier, you do perform, I think, more often than not, probably 10% off what you're capable of. Senior final is the same. Like, I wouldn't think that's the best version of Pallinroth by any means, or Fenner and Kildavin, and conditions are obviously very different.
Compared to any other game in a final, there has to be fear of losing.
There absolutely is.
How confident you are,
you're tightened up.
How arrogant you might be. You're like,
it has to be there.
Your mistake could cost you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. And that's obviously a big thing. Yeah.
If Mousey hits the penalty wide, right, and game is blown up, now Ballin are still feeling like they left it behind them.
Yeah.
And Loughlin Bridge feel that the black card was
it's spurred us on, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, we had to try a bit harder for the 14 that we had instead of the 15. Yeah, and again, look at that's.
Look, we in the senior against O'Loughlin, we got a man sent off after, was it 10 minutes in the first half?
Yeah.
And the 14 man.
Yeah, drove them on. Yeah, look, so, that can happen. I thought, to give Ballin fierce credit now, like we have a really good inside forward line, Lee Connor and Charlie Nolan and Aidan Lillis, right? Dan O'Connor in particular was absolutely outstanding. He was really good. He's on the goal on time. And equally, I think Josh Fernandez was fantastic on Lee Connor. And then Josh got injured early in the second half. Lee came into the game a little bit more then, but they were savage on that one. The other thing they got right was Conor Bulger and Liam Brennan. Liam Brennan is a big influence for us in the middle of the field. Came to life now in the second half when we needed him. I thought he put in a great shift. But early on, like, Bulger was getting stuck into him. You could tell it was fairly coordinated. And sure, why wouldn't it be? Liam's a former county player and he's very influential from a Loughlin point of view. I think young DeLacy in the middle of the field for Loughlin was fantastic. He scored 1-1, I think, from play. Got on an awful lot of ball. Darren O'Keefe got on an awful lot of ball. But then it's interesting, his direct opponent, Fionn McCaffrey, was quite influential for Ballin as well. And again, like, I mean, I'd know Darren O'Keefe fairly well at centre forward. I don't think, like, if I know Darren the way I think I do, I'd say he'd probably be beating himself up today because he had a shot late on that was blocked down. Now I look back at the video again, that gap actually opened up to take on the shot. Ballin just closed it down really well, really quickly. I'd hold nothing against Doc for the like of that. And look, at shit happens in terms of the Lee Connor thing as well. I don't think that chap should be taking the brunt of any criticism. It's a big moment in the game, but it's not the full every moment in the game. So head up, like
the senior game. Half an hour later, you had two teams at times refusing to take shots. So, you know, like, to step up and be willing to take on the shot in the county final, that's what you give the man credit for.
Yeah.
It doesn't go right,
Again, if you look back, if anyone, the clips are up on Carlow J's social media pages, and if you look at it again, it was nearly the right option. It didn't seem to be at left or right. It opened up, he's on the edge of the D, it's in range, go for it. Really good defending. I can't actually remember exactly the ball man who got the block, but it was a huge block at the time.
Yeah, and like, brilliant that you said that, because like you look to your main players to be your leaders and to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and that ball goes over the bar. We ain't doing this because you're in Brennan's. Do you know what I mean? Like, and and the same with the balance chap that makes the block.
I can't actually just think off the top of my head. There's three of them close together. Conor Bulger was probably one of them, actually. I think he might have been in the mix there. Yeah. But it was, or maybe it was Larkin. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. But it was super defending.
And again, there's leadership, like the Paddy O'Shea, the Paddy O'Shea speech, because that lifts the opposition. Like, you know, and like, maybe it's the third time I've said it now, Kev. But moments in games, games, and between that miss or that block, like, you know, from the Ballon point of view, that's a great block. From a Loughlin point of view, it's a bad shot. But like, I guarantee you, if that game had gone to a draw and the replay was this weekend, you'd want Darren O'Keefe to take the shot again. Absolutely,
yeah. And like PJ Hockney before that brought it back to that point, you know, and Manny would feel he was possibly lucky to maybe to stay on the field, but I don't know. Like, I'd have to give him credit for taking on the shot. Young Corey Kelleher deserves a mention that came in for Ballon. Billy Fanning was telling me he got an awful hard time with injury, and when I saw Liam Brennan coming off for Ballon before half time, I was thinking, this is a huge call out with a Briar. The biggest roasting I got in my life, and I got a few of them, was off Liam Brennan below Ballinabolly. He got 2-2 from play off me after about 15 minutes, and he was going past me for another one in for a goal, and I just took the legs from under him. I was never as happy to get a black card in my whole life. He's a serious operator, like, but the Briar pulled him yesterday. I was like, geez, this is big. I knew nothing about Corey Kelleher. He was fantastic from frees, and like, you know, he contributed well from play as well. Yeah.
No, and like, there's times where you have to trust the lad with the experience of the likes of the Briar, and like let's be honest, he's not on his own. He's Martin Wall beside him. Frank Fannin is there. Dermot Nolan. Like, these boys have seen as many football games and have seen as many close encounters. So them boys that make a decision and back it up, like, you know.
The men behind the Briar.
Copyright that. That's genius. You mentioned at the start.
A fair bit of armour behind him as well.
Yeah.
Well, like, when you have that Kelleher lad coming in with Mousey coming in, Paddy Byrne was there if they wanted him. Do you know, them boys can mix it.
You mentioned though, and I think it was crucial, that the two penalties that weren't, like the slide tackle one.
Oh, that's man. Now, do you know what's really interesting about this, right? And I'd love to get the rule on it. Fanning was obviously on co-com beside me. Loughlin were asked to produce a commentator. I rocked up, and Ballon likewise. So Fanning was there. No, he wasn't afraid to call things. Yeah. In fairness to him, like, and you know, it didn't matter if you were a fellow referee. He was still, you know what I mean. And look, whatever. You know, everyone's into it, whatever. But yeah, it was. I was like, Jesus, Bill, you're a fair operator there to be.
Like, it was probably it would have been a straight red in a soccer match. Like, it was the studs up nearly. And I'm not saying it was. No.
But this is where it's interesting, right? So if you look at, and I've looked at the clip again. Yes, it's absolutely a dangerous tackle. Yes, it's absolutely in the square as well, which is a fundamental thing. I missed the ball hitting the net because I was trying to see where your man landed. Yeah. I had a feeling it was just inside the square. The video indicates it was just inside the square, right? Dangerous tackle wins the ball. Yeah. If you look at it closely, so some, like, and we put it into our WhatsApp group. Some were saying red card, dangerous tackle. Some were saying, yellow card, definitely a penalty. And look, everyone thinks it's a penalty anyway, I think. And then I'm thinking, I see where that is. I'd like to see the rule. The rule obviously determines everything. Like, if that's 10 years ago, it's probably not even blown. 100%. Because he actually wins the bloody ball. Yeah. You know, this is the interesting thing about it. But in the modern game, I would say it's a penalty, and that's why we go with the Stonewall route. But I'm quite glad he didn't give it the time, like, you know. But Billy, it's funny because the thing I got most amusement out of was I think it was when Keane Kavanagh pulled down Mar, I think it was, wasn't it, for the penalty? Billy was saying, black card. I turned around, and you're not happy enough that's a penalty, like. Do you know what I mean? Get your cards and sod off with them, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to probably decide the game anyway, you know. Yeah. But look, it wasn't a classic Junior A final. We've definitely had more entertaining ones, right? But it was tense near the end, and Christ, like, I personally found it very hard to stay for the senior game and look at it. I had no interest in being there whatsoever, I'll be straight with you. Like, there's no point in hiding it.
And listen, like, I totally get that. When your own lads, your own boys you grew up with, and like, you probably, if you're anything like me, I would say your graw was to get in the car and head for Loughlin Bridge and and have the autopsy and figure out, you know, and maybe even go to the Monday Club today, like, you know.
Yeah, but, that's it. Like, I mean, come here, but credit to Ballon, you take nothing away from them, and I'm sure they're enjoying the celebrations. I texted Paddy Byrne last night. I had a great time for Paddy Byrne, I have to say, and you know, enjoy it and Conor Bulger's another lad that have a good bit of time for via his father, gone famous with Jarlath, you know what I mean, and fair play to him. So best luck to all of them.
And the last thing I'd say on it is, I had a chat with Mousy, and like the man is and it's a bit of a cliche to say how much it means to lads, but watch the clip of Mousy talking about it, and like this man is 38 years of age. He's scoring a penalty in a junior final. Like Mousy's played senior football, he's played intermediate football. This is probably the lowest grade he's been at, and that penalty and scoring that goal meant as much to him as it ever has, and like it just epitomises the whole thing for me, like, you know.
Well, look, on that note, I think we'll take a break and we'll come back to the Talbot Hotel Intermediate Football Championship Final. Welcome back to our County Finals review programme here on the Left Wing Back, live from the Talbot Hotel in Carlow. We are turning our attention to the Talbot Hotel Intermediate Football Championship Final. It was, of course, on Saturday night in horrendous conditions, Brian. I think it probably got worse as the evening went on. I know it wasn't particularly pleasant for the Junior B final that we spoke about earlier between Rathvilly and Aero, but Christ, this was as bad a set of conditions now as I've ever seen any final played in. But Fenna, of course, up against Kildavan Donegal, and you know, we thought it might be close, and at half time the scoreline suggested it was 1-3 to 6 points. However, I have to say that, like, for me, I thought Fenna were winners all day long. They were quite wasteful in the first half. The breeze was very, very tricky to read, but I think the tail of the tape is probably, you know, Kildown Donegal got a fortuitous goal. Pat Butter got caught out with the wind. He never gets caught out, right? But the wind was so bad, he literally took 2 steps forward, I think, out with the goal mouth, and the ball just flew, like, took on and stayed at the same height, went in over his head. Absolutely horrendous stuff. So that kept Kildown Donegal in the game. In the second half, Fenna just powered on. Interesting one, Sean Murphy was in full forward. Now, you'd never see Sean Murphy in full forward. In actual fact, if I was to play him anywhere, I always thought he was savage at 6. I'll tell you why. It forces the opposition to probably play a defender at centre forward.
Yep.
And his strength is running, okay? But they played him at full forward against the wind and with the wind. It was a big choice now to put him against the wind in full forward, we'll say, or full forward against the wind, to say it the right way around. But it paid dividends. He was a handful. Paul Kelly certainly had his hands full. I think he'd be the first man to say it. And while I'm on it, 2 of the rawest fullbacks I've ever seen in my life. Paul Kelly on one end, Dion Wall at the other. Oh my God.
Raw fest.
Talk about Hell's Kitchen, lad.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, but yeah.
And in fairness to your point about the weather, like, just after the Junior B game, I was down on the pitch getting a few clips, and the sound was totally distorted. The wind is so thick and strong. And like that, it got progressively worse. By the time the 2 teams were coming out of the dressing room to go down the tunnel, like, it was turning into an awful evening. In saying that, I think if you put those 2 teams on in the middle of July on that ground, I don't know if the result changes.
Yeah, probably the way that when they click, they probably are a little bit better. Yeah, I think more scoring power is the key thing.
Yep.
And again, like Hines and, like, when you have Hines, Lomax, Sean Murphy, Jack Tracy, like Kieran Whelan put in a savage shift as well, and I'm actually leaving out one more. But, like, they have serious potency. And,
like, you have to remember that Fenna only this time last year were playing senior football.
Yeah.
I don't think Fenna equipped themselves at senior football the way everyone expected them to.
No.
I fully expect them to stay up last year, and from making sure the seniors as competitive as possible point of view, I was disappointed when they didn't stay up, you know.
It wasn't the best version of Fenna when they were up there, no.
No.
Absolutely not.
But then that experience, like, the it's obviously stood to them.
Yeah.
And then going into the final, and accounting for what you said at the start about, you know, in terms of the Junior B and Junior A games, a county final is different. It takes on, you have to account for the bit of nerves, the fear of losing, all those type of things, and who deals with it the best. And clearly on Saturday evening, Fenna were able to deal with those nerves and that fear, having been there before. You know, Kildavan is their first final since
for a while anyway. Yeah, is it 4 or 5 years did they get to one? I think in around the COVID time against Ballyrana. Didn't Ledger come on as a sub?
That's right.
I think they actually could have beaten Fenna in the semi-final. Yeah.
I don't think Kildavan are far off it.
No, I don't think they are. And you know what? In Jake Nolan, they have a serious prospect. He got 4 points from play off our aforementioned friend Dion Wall. Now, he might have been on him for all 4, actually, but he was definitely on him, I'd say, for 2 or 3.
I know he was on him for all 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dion.
But yeah, and look, I think it's probably not a bad time to mention another one of our sponsors, Valhalla Saunas, who have come on board for the Player of the Year awards, and you too can get involved in this whole process if you email info@leftwingback.com with your nominations for the following categories: Footballer of the Year, Hurler of the Year, Young Footballer of the Year, Young Hurler of the Year, Ladies Footballer of the Year, and Camogie Player of the Year. You could be in a chance there of winning a private session over at Valhalla Saunas for up to 6 people, and the winners of each of those categories themselves, the players that is, will also have a private session along with 5 other people at Valhalla Saunas, and thanks to them for coming on board for sponsoring the Player of the Year awards. We have had a couple of queries on this, by the way, because we have just said Footballer of the Year and Hurler of the Year. We haven't actually put it to grades. We're going to actually prorata this, right? We're going to put it best player relevant to the grade and try and make some sort of an algorithm in a comparison to, is it worthy of Footballer of the Year? Because I just think it's a bit disingenuous to maybe always give it to senior. They'll argue that, that's the grade, that's the highest grade, that should be the best footballer, they're playing at the best standard. But if you're performing at an exceptionally high level at the standard that you're playing at, like we've seen how close the finals are. If there was a one player standing out so much, wouldn't we have one-way traffic in a lot of these games?
I asked the Briar in the preview clip, having spent the year now managing at junior A level, is there lads capable of playing senior in the county football, and he would say that there is. So yeah, it stands to reason why.
Well, that's it. And look, we'll take a bit of flack for that as well. But there's only a certain amount we can do. We can't keep everyone happy, but we do try to cater for all. So that's the way we're going to do it. So nominations are open. Yeah.
And you're as good looking as we are, Kev. People are always going to try to take it down,
Well, it is difficult.
Yeah.
Everyone else has to have a chance to shoot.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think as well, just on the intermediate final, Willie Hickey, being in charge of Callavan, I think he had them playing across the year, probably playing as well as
they played for some time. Yeah,
100%, and
really good brand as well.
Definitely, but I think lads, and Willie strikes me as the type of lad that fella to die for.
Yeah, he's passionate.
Yeah, and the Hickeys, they come with that, and at this moment in time, if Callavan can keep the head up, there's no reason why
they can't kick on. Yeah,
2025 they won't be there.
Again, look at, and we'll give one little, I suppose, teaser away. Jake Nolan is definitely a contender for Young Footballer of the Year. He's been absolutely
super
absolutely magnificent. So that's definitely a contender. But again, email info@leftwingback.com with your nomination, and if any of those nominations actually have been successful, well, you'll be in the draw drum for a private session over at Valhalla Sauna. So we thank again for this particular segment of the programme and for looking after our Player of the Year awards. So yeah, back to the action. I think a few other guys that deserve maybe a bit of a shout out, Brian.
Yeah.
John Corwin, in his mid-40s, and he was getting himself about the place. Like, he is, we all know he's a physical player, he's a fine footballer as well. He put himself about, he deserves kudos. He played in the 98 intermediate final, I think.
I remember doing linesman in the county final 2006.
Callavan and
Pal,
yeah.
And could that have gone to a replay?
No, I didn't go. No. But Brian Farr won it later on with a 45.
That's what won.
Yeah.
But I remember, I think, did Scobie get a red that day?
Not sure now.
Because I remember doing the line, and I remember John Corwin taking the hit anyway. But John Corwin as a footballer has everything you need, right? He has great skill. He's and even at the ages now, he's still not slow, right? And he is as hardy, like a lad that will take slaps, a lad that can give slaps. I don't mean slaps. I mean,
I show you back from
hardship.
Give
hardship, take hardship. And the best trait I think any footballer can have, a brain.
Yeah, great footballer.
He's so clever. He's so clever.
Losing Barry Hickey was a big thing for Callavan Donegal also. He's a key player. Like, him having to go off was not ideal. But when you can bring on Joe Roberts, it's not too shabby. Like, and it's great to see him back. Like, he done a bad knee injury, I think, during the Ireland season.
Yeah. No,
it's great that he was back so quickly as well.
I mean, he put them in the final with the kick in the semi-final.
Definitely.
Young Alex Callahan's a good footballer as well. He's only a chap as well. I think his leaving was hurt this year as well.
Yeah, they won't be far off. But congratulations to Fenna and commiserations to Callavan Donegal. And with that, I suppose, unless we have anything else to add on the intermediate side of things, concludes the Talbot Hotel Intermediate Football Championship and concludes this particular segment. Back in a couple of moments. Right, welcome back here to the Left Wing Back podcast, live from the Talbot Hotel in Carlow. We are turning our attention to the Michael League Motors Senior Football Championship final between Rathvilly and Palatine. 2-7 to 110, the final score. Rathvilly looked down and out, I thought, with a couple of minutes left in this one, Brino. But a little bit of composure, a little bit of steel, and obviously there's a bit more to kind of dig into as well in regards to the game. But the conclusion of it we'll start with, I suppose. Composure, steel, resilience, all those things came to fruition, came to the fore. Balls as well, I would say. But I thought the crucial score, obviously Liam Gavin's score is the one that's going to make the headlines for equalising, and there was fair pressure on it, take nothing away from him. I think Eric Malloy's before that is such an important score as well, to bring Rathvilly into the position where they can equalise. Off the left foot, calm, and Rathvilly not panicking. I think it just set the tone for the equaliser that was about to come.
Yeah, no, it was an unusual kind of game, to be honest.
It was, yeah.
I remember coming away feeling, not to sound too dramatic, but just feeling nothing, feeling just like kind of unsatisfied.
Yeah.
And not that you'd be satisfied with losing, but just you don't know what way to feel with a draw, like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, as resilient as Rathvilly were, you know, with 15 minutes gone in the first half, I won't lie. This is why I could never have been a senior footballer. Like, my mental state was in mortal peril. I'm not kidding. I said to the lads the night before, I said, geez, if I concede an early goal, you know, I'd be happy enough. And 3 minutes, bang, goal. So, and then fortunately, your whole mindset changes. Then Eric bangs on the back of the net, and next thing you're running at half time, 2 points up, and you're wondering what his life, you know. And I think both teams showed an awful lot of that thing we've mentioned in every grade so far, in fear of losing, and not really wanting to be the one to make the mistake and cost it or cost their team, like, you know. But yeah, it was. I'd say both teams are more or less happy to have another bite of the cherry. I
get where you're coming from. It's like going into McDonald's, getting maybe a quarter pounder meal and a chicken sandwich meal, you know, a chicken nugget meal, and whatever she's having. But you know, only actually coming out feeling like you're after eating a happy meal only.
Yeah.
You know, that's the type of thing. But thankfully, you know, if you are hungry, On Baru Bar and Bistro is just down below us here in the Talbot Hotel. So yeah, that might have you feeling a little bit more nourished, and hopefully the county final next Saturday has us feeling a little bit more nourished. But that's the whole thing, though. It's the expectation of what we come to expect with Pal and Rathvilly. We know what they can deliver. We're not going to change tact on the fact that you do come down often, a few decibels when it comes to county final day, and there's very few teams that I can remember other than maybe a Rogue who have come with maybe a 9 out of 10 performance on county final day that I can recall. Like, if you go back through it, and obviously there's recency bias as well, but you know, it's not a huge surprise that it did end up a draw either. I predicted 2 draws yesterday. It was fairly close now. It would have been a nice little bet if we had put a few bob in it.
100%.
Yeah, but look at yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jesus.
No, but like, you know, I think like Pal would be disappointed with the goal they conceded from us.
Yeah,
it was a brilliant piece of individual brilliance from Eric, right? But I imagine if you're a Pal supporter, you're going, someone stand in the way. And exactly the same with the goal we conceded. Like, if it was fear of losing, right? And if you're worried about conceding the goal in the first minute, wouldn't you think that in those first couple of minutes it would just be a sea of green and gold jerseys? And I just thought there was and I was at that, from the side the goal went in, we were standing at terrace, and I just thought there was a huge, incredible, there was an incredible amount of space there for so early on in the game. And from a Rathvilly supporter point of view, you're kind of going like, how is there not somebody standing, you know, to shore out that gap? So with both teams feel that way on those on the first 2 goals, maybe they cancel each other out. The second Pal goal, whether there was a lot of look to it or whether there was,
there definitely was a lot of look to it.
You know, but like,
you don't have to feel uncomfortable for saying it because you're a Rathvilly man. There was an awful lot of look to it, sure. Like, when you see 2 goalkeepers in county final weekend getting caught, like Pat Butler and Robbie Malloy, they never get caught like that. You know what I mean?
But I was obviously at the, you know, I was at the terrace on the Blues end side. So like, all you can really see is the ball going across and it hits the back of the net, and then you're going like,
how did that happen?
Well, that's what
I don't think anyone got a touch of it. I know on our article, like Stephen Barmick had a different view from the stand side, possibly a different view on who got the goal as well. But again, he would be better placed on the other side to see. I thought Riley, it was Riley that got it perhaps, but I think he's making the case was it for DC, possibly on the back post. But it looked like it went straight in, I thought, from where we were. But it doesn't matter any. You were so disappointed, yeah.
We're disappointed to concede it because we haven't gone in 2 points up and coming out for the second half. Okay, obviously Pal had no choice but to come and push to get back in the game. And the goal came, I thought, at the exact time Pal needed that goal.
Yeah.
You know, and it put all the pressure back on Rathvilly then, and we probably hadn't been shooting at will or anything, so our chances to come level, I was worried, were we going to get enough shots off?
Yeah.
And with your conversion rate, were we going to get enough? And I would say there was some calls in it, some of the frees
coming near the end, especially.
Like Brian Smith was. I was standing on the terrace looking straight across at it, and he had held the ball in one hand and holding it out and pulled to ground, free out steps.
He's not in a position to play the ball. Why can't he play the ball is the question.
And I see so many, like, and it happened to Brendan, I think, once, and it happened to it wasn't Jamie Kenny, one of the Pal lads I thought got done harshly. Where
the one at the end was definitely harsh. The one that Gavin. Yeah.
It was never a free.
Never a free. Like he got. It was DC, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh God, I thought like he was very hard done by there. Yeah.
That was never a free. Brian Smith was a free in. So maybe the argument is, look, swings and roundabouts, and it goes that way. Can
I just make a separate point actually, because I've wanted to make this for some time, regards Brendan Murphy. Now look, there's an odd time where Brendan will play for a free, no different than anyone else, and hit the deck. But I feel sometimes, and it's not specific to yesterday, but this is a general point, that because he's that bit bigger, there's an expectation that he should be able to take a little bit more contact and not get a free. Whether you're 6'4" or 5'6", if it's a free, it's a free. I think he gets an immense amount of punishment, and often doesn't actually get frees for it. And again, the theory is because an odd time he might go to ground a little bit handy. Perhaps there's that perception there. I don't know, but it's just a point I've wanted to make. And look,
I'd say a few things on that. The first is, I'm an absolute subscriber to the fact that Brendan Murphy has to work 10 times harder to get a free. There's no doubt in my mind, from if you're a coach, you're asking them to maybe be a little bit
more physical with him.
Well, no, if you're Brendan's coach,
okay.
I think you're saying, lads, when Brendan gets the ball, can someone get over to him and take the pressure off? Because he's spent his entire GA career, carrying ball, long range shots. Like that's his game. Is carrying the ball. But there needs to be a little bit. He needs probably to be a little bit. What's the word I'm trying to think of? In his old age now, he needs to be a bit more mindful, and maybe not be as willing to get on as much ball, which sounds like a credible thing to say. That's like asking.
Pick the moments when you get on it. I tell you what, Rathvilly have got a bit more clever to as well, and again, it's interesting. Just what I've noticed now. There was often times where, because he was who he was and demanded the ball, Rathvilly has gave it to him, and he might have been in the best position.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if he's not in the best position, he still often end up getting a score. Right. Yeah. But I thought the development from that point of view was evident yesterday in one moment where he was actually coming around on the swivel, Brendan was, right, and he gave the ball to Brandon Kelly, who was just on the edge of the D, and he continued his run expecting to come around on the arc and take on the loop again, and Brandon dummied, took 3 Pal lads out of it, had a handy score. And that's credit to Brandon as well, that he's not like, well, I'm not just going to give it to him because he's Brendan. No, and I don't wish to make something out of this either, but I just thought from a neutral point of view there was a tendency for years for both club and county that he had to get the ball because of who he was. And to an extent, why not? He's that good.
What you said is absolutely factual, right? And like Brandon is a great example, because Brandon is a wonderful football and brain, and if like Brandon Kelly wouldn't see the name or the number, he'd be Brendan have his mind made up about whether he's going to shoot or not beforehand, right? But the point I was going to make on it was, and I played with Brendan under 10, under 12, under 14, under 16, right? And I can tell you, again, as a mentally frail footballer, right? If I got the ball in a match, if Brendan could have been 50 yards away, my attitude was get the ball to Murph, right? And so there's definitely been times over the years where lads have shifted the responsibility to him, and that has made us, in some sense, easy to play against, because you get lads to surround them, and over time then referees start to say, well, Jesus, I don't know, not that they're punishing Rat Philly or anything, but the point being that it gets to the stage where teams are just getting too clever and they're able to
cop onto it,
yeah. Now, I do think, and it was evident in the Junior B game, the Junior A game, and the Intermediate game, and in the Senior game. I'd love to see the GA do something around the thing where you've 3 or 4 lads around on the ball, right? Now, he's nowhere to go. The fella standing at his back with the hands in has to be found, you know? Now, the 3 boys at home like crucify me for this, and I said, no, if a lad on the ball gets himself into that position, that's good defending.
Yeah.
I'm saying, fair enough, but the lad face onto him, who's the only one that can actually probably see the ball, should be the only one with the hand going in, and the other boy should be with the hands out.
Shepherding, yeah.
And I think there's far too many times where a lad gets blown for steps, big cheer from the crowd, you know, and I'd love to see that being changed. Anyway,
do you know what I was glad to see the 2 Hickeys doing yesterday was, do you know this whole thing that's crept into the game when someone's given away a free or been blown for steps, namely, and the opposition player goes into their face shouting, like, antagonising them. The Hickeys took none of that in the junior and senior game yesterday. And I'm kind of happy to see, because I just think it's childish nonsense.
And pointless. Totally
pointless, and like, I think Conor O'Doherty in particular felt the wrath of it yesterday, and Rathvilly ended up getting a couple of scores not too long after that. I'm not saying that specific incident was the catalyst.
No, but I don't understand.
But it did just happen in around the same set of time. That was a crucial period in the game. I know you've kind of touched on it, where it was 1-3 and Rathvilly got 1-2 just before half time. Malai's goal, as you mentioned, you know.
I don't blame a lad where you've been coached and trained all year to double team and get lads surrounded on in possession, get the turnover, right? And you've worked on it all year, and it's working for you in a county final, and you're wired to the hilt. I don't blame a lad that go, like, not necessarily to be intimidating or to condone getting in a lad's face, but the fist pumping or whatever, totally understandable. And then at the same time, you know, you need to kind of box clever in that sense and pick your moments of when to do it, like, you know. Well,
I just don't get what purpose is it serving by roaring in someone's face, like.
Yeah, I know.
What you're trying to do, you're trying to antagonise them so he'll hit you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's part of the game. It's not a pleasant part of the game. I get that, and you know, when you get a score, you have the right to celebrate it as well. Yeah. But this thing of shouting and roaring after winning the free out after 5 minutes, not what they already done yesterday, by the way. But in general sense, you see lads doing after 5 minutes, like
no, and
shut up the fuck and play football. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just
can we lads lovely.
Yeah, you can, not time, yeah. But like lads go on the ground as well. I mean, that's not a new phenomenon, but it really annoys me. Like, and you know, you're told if you do get fouled or if you get by contact, go down. All right, that's not a new thing in the game either. But this thing of rolling around in the ground, do you know what I mean? Just does me nothing. Like,
thing about going to ground, right? And
with minimal contact, that is.
Oh yeah. But I remember playing cornerback now in whatever age group, whatever it was, but catching the ball near the end line, right? And as soon as a hand would come in, down to ground I would go. And if the ref ever played in the backs, you got a free out, right? The hand, right? And backs get frees way handier than forwards get. And back to your point about Brendan, like, my own personal opinion, I don't think he goes to ground that too easy. But it's the whole thing of, like, you're 6'6", right, and you're 16.5 stone weight, and you're moving at as full pelt as you can go. Contact will knock you off balance, and it's easier to go down. You know, is supposed to point I'd make, and it's probably the point he'd make as well. And there's been so many times throughout his career where it hasn't been in his interest to go down. So to me, the argument couldn't be made that he goes down too easy. Now, in saying that, if Rathvilly were 2 points up with a minute to go, I'd be screaming at him to go down. So I think there's kind of, again, swings and roundabouts on whether or not, you know, where you're coming from there.
So he kicked the world yesterday too. And look, on that note, I'm going to shift focus from Rathvilly to Palatine, because I think Pal deserve huge credit for the way they approached the game. You know, Josh Egan taking that goal, like, that was a big moment early on, and to settle them. And they've had this massive knack this year, haven't they, in big games of scoring goals early on. You know, the same in the semi-final against Rogue. It opened up Jamie Kenny's offload. Like, if you ever want to show an example of hand passing with both hands, he gathers it and hand passes with the left hand over the shoulder into the path of Josh Egan. And Egan's looking up as he's moving along with the ball. He's looking to see what's on. He's like, no, the best course of action is to shoot. He keeps it low. That's the crucial thing. Makes it hard for Robbie Malloy. It goes to the back of the net. And it's a superstar that Palatine get, like, you know what I mean?
They are the best starters in the championship.
Yeah.
They're blistering start. The grip pace. Like Crowley is
Super
quick.
pace,
Kenny is quick. Egan is quick.
Even DC coming forward is quick. Cashman at full back is absolutely brilliant as well, by the way.
Very good
I think he's a great bit of stuff. You know, Doherty's tough, no nonsense. I think actually, if you're to look at, we mentioned Brendan Murphy, by his own standards was probably a little bit quieter yesterday, right? Shane O'Neill by his own standards was quieter yesterday. I think Kieran Moran by his standards was probably a little bit quieter yesterday. Other guys were stepping up. I think DC possibly got man of the match. Killian Duff got onto an awful lot of ball. Finbar Kavanagh got on an awful lot of ball. And strictly speaking, to Pal now, just in this particular facet of it. And, you know, as you said, Egan is pace, Crowley is pace. They have it in abundance, like, do you know what I mean? They're a really, really good side. They're a merit. And I thought, do you know what? Like, if they'd have won it yesterday, I would have taken my hat off and said, worthy winners. Like, I'm not quite sure, genuinely. I might be savage for this now. Is it the fair? It might not have been the fairest of results. I thought Pal were better than Rathvilly yesterday, being truthful about it. I thought it wasn't the best version of Pal, but it was closer to the best version of Pal than what Rathvilly's version of their best was. And that's where I think the whole thing changes now.
Well, look, you're getting the dead arm after this when we're finished.
Yeah.
But, look.
And at the end of the day, they were 2 points up late on. Okay, they got a fortuitous goal. Yeah. But it was Rathvilly that was chasing it. They chased it at the start. They got it back to their credit, and they chased it at the end, and they got it back to their credit. So Pal were leading it. Like, if you want to look at it, you know.
Fair enough. I give you that. What I'd say about Pal is, number one, they've serious pace all over the field. They did look, even though both sides didn't want to lose, they looked like they had more lads willing to shoot.
Yeah.
And they probably have more lads. I'm just trying off the top of my head now. I'm thinking of our lads who take scores from distance. We probably have 2 at max 3 that will
take it on anyway
from distance, you know. Whereas you think of even like Brian McMahon when he came on, well able of long range score. I know Shane O'Neill didn't score yesterday
from play,
unheard of. Like, great man to take a long range score. J. O'Kane well able to take a long range.
Kieran Moran.
Like, I'd say from the Pal perspective, even though they looked more willing to shoot, maybe when they look back at the tape during the week now, will they say to themselves, Jesus, we actually had 5 or 6 more times where we should have shot. And probably would have done if it was the first round of the championship, would have taken them on.
Yeah. And as you say, like, it's one thing having guys who can shoot from long range, and then, like, it sounds like a simple thing to say, but can consistently score from long range is another thing. Yep. Conor Dyle takes on an awful lot of shots from long range. Checkered flag, not to be too critical on him, but there is a checkered flag. Brendan is a bit more accurate from long range. He's a phenomenal long range kicker. Shane O'Neill is a phenomenal long range kicker, and I mean consistently now, we'll say. Brian McMahon, likewise, as you kind of mentioned, guys that take it on and score consistently. They're not just posh shots, like, you know. And I do think from that point of view, like, they have so many guys, Pal, that can take on shots and are willing to, as you say, like, or should be more willing to anyway. Like, and Rathvilly's point of view, though, like, not to do them a disservice. Like, I mean, look what they've got from their capabilities. Kevin Murphy, like, he's been absolutely excellent this year, right?
Lead scorer in championship, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely excellent. Like, Dara, his brother, came in yesterday. He offers something different as well. Don't be surprised if you see him on the edge of the square the next day. And I think, you know, it's often a good little change to make whenever you're coming into a replay. You'd see it time and time again where a big man comes in, the dynamic changes. Have Pal been tested much under high balls? Yes, they have, actually, in the semi-final, probably to an extent with more to wear. So they're not exactly naive or gullible going into that. But like, Darren Murphy is a handful. He's definitely something that they can bring that's different. Yeah.
The other thing I'd say about Pal is I thought they looked very willing to stick to their game plan. Now,
process, yeah. They give up the kick out for a lot of it.
Which that's
so interesting. Defend from the middle third kind of thing.
And I thought, I was looking out, say, at the middle diamond, right? And I'm looking at Eric Malloy, great fielder of a ball. Brendan, great fielder of a ball. Dara Curran. And I thought our men, I thought we probably had bigger men and potentially better fielders, right? I have no problem. Someone from Pal wants to tell me I'm wrong. And yet, they were... So Was that the calculation from the Papa interview? Look,
I think so. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head.
And give the referee have it.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
you know,
and you know it's interesting because from Pals now, Craig Carney's kick-outs were excellent. I thought for the most part, and he kicked some fabulous scores. Like he's really added that to his game with great gusto, right? But I think when they were forced to go along, which I think Pal were forced to go along for nearly every kick-out, were they? Yeah. I don't recall. They got a few offshore, but I think they were more opportunistic rather than being given to them, right? But he picked out Finbar Kavanagh on a few occasions to the left-hand side in the first half, and they were pinpoint, or really, really good kick-outs. Like, but yeah, I did think it was quite interesting. But like, I mean, if you look at the pace they have, that they can counter-attack with if they turn the ball over, you know. And I'd say I understand why they did it. Yeah. Now I'm a little bit old school that, you know, a lot of the time I would say, lads, push up and just go out in this county final, see what they're bloody made of. But they probably didn't want to leave themselves vulnerable. Now, if you look at it, there was stages at crucial times in the first half and the second half where they did push. So it wasn't a case where they were always just giving it up, right? But sometimes there's no harm in the old two fingers and say, right, well, sure, look, let's have you, and just back yourself. Yeah, you know.
The amount of times I'd love to see a team forget, like, as raw as it might sound, right lads, 15 on 15.
Yeah.
Win your individual battles, and let's see are we the kingpins at the end of it all, like, you know. Now, a team with more brains than their opponents will win that battle every day of the week. But are we gone past that day where we'll ever see two teams saying, right, 15 and 15 and take our chances?
You might see it for kickouts. That's probably it, yeah.
And like, I tell you what, I got a fright when was it Marty Barry was on the announcements, and he called out Horst Lawler was coming in, and I was going like, I'd completely forgotten that he was on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, the last thing now we need is
him running from deep and drawing frees.
Because they were 2 points up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, here's an experienced defender and a guy. So we push up and leave any kind of a gap, and he gets the ball. We've seen what he did for Carlow against Kildare a couple of years ago. Like, so I was now, thankfully, at one stage I was delighted he had the ball in the middle of the field and he was more or less at a standstill taking a solo, and I couldn't have been happier to see that. But I suppose the point I'm making is they were able to bring on Brian McMahon, able to bring on Horst Lawler, and like, there's
Brandon Cassidy is another lad who, like, not that you brought on, obviously, he started the game, but he's still trying to work his way back. You know, it's not the best Brandon Cassidy. And just speaking of Brandon's, I don't believe it was the best Brandon Kelly yesterday either, for a very good reason. I think he was carrying a bit of a dose from what I was hearing. And he didn't show any ill signs for a few occasions in particular. There was one in the first half where he was tracking Jack Deasy up the terrace side, and he just would not leave him alone. He's like a wasp. And eventually the ball was turned over.
I think he was I think Jack kind of went to hand him off.
Yeah.
Until he was away, and this little wasp was back on him again, and he went to hand him off. And
unbelievable.
But Brandon is our best tackler, are one of our best forwards and our best tackler, because he is relentless. He's excellent. The other thing to mention as well is for about players coming in, the replay suits Pádraig Bulger. Got the red card in the semi-final. He's available for selection again now for Saturday, and like, he's been. Pádraig Bulger was, between himself and Brandon and probably Eric Malloy, those three lads, to my mind, have been pushing for our player of the year within the club. Not the county, or maybe
they might be pushing for that as well.
Yeah, or maybe for the left wing back.
But you know what? It's not a bad segue to give a few clues, but go on ahead with your point first.
Just to say that, and Pádraig was so unfortunate to get the red against the Loughlin, probably a moment of madness or whatever. But he had been so crucial for us, like playing at half back, kicking like worldies, and 2 or 3 worldies a game, you know. Like, without a couple of his scores against Clonmore, with Clonmore getting the goal at the end, he was our saviour, you know. So to have him back, it'll be absolutely brilliant. It'll give JJ and Kevin and Rory and Mark hopefully a selection headache, you know. 6 o'clock on Saturday will tell all.
Yeah, it definitely will. It's interesting. Like, obviously, the Camogie Finals, as you mentioned earlier, are on Sunday. That's why it's Saturday. But like, it's still an interesting time that the game is on at 6 o'clock. You know, some will say, "I will give people that are working an opportunity to get in there." Others will argue, like, I mean, you can't be right. Any others will argue, "Oh, just if your kids there now, it's enough time, and sure, come to the final, finishing under lights and all this stuff." Look, and then all points are valid, right? And it's understood. I wonder, was there a consideration that could have been a gap there reasonable enough to go with 2 weeks. Could there have been a situation where, like, I know promises were made to the Camogie board, I'm not suggesting they shouldn't have their day out, but should there have been maybe a stipulation that if a game does go to a replay, that, well, look, you can still have the grounds, but you have to play it Saturday. And it might seem like a controversial point, but at the end of the day, you have to cover all eventualities. You can't be wise after the fact either. But there could be a stipulation there. They're still getting the day out.
Yeah.
And if people want to come at me for saying that, fair enough. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we all know it. Until we have integration, Netwatch Cullen Park is Carlow GA's home. It's no one else's home. So there could have been a situation where the Camogie was gone to Saturday. Or, to avoid all of that, you could have put the football on 2 weeks' time. There's a big enough gap there still. I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong. I'm putting out all these on the table.
I get you.
Nice table, by the way.
It's a fabulous table here in the Talbot Hotel. But I think what I'd say to you on that is, number one, I'm sure John MacDonald had it penciled in that if it was a draw, it would be replay. And
doing a great job, by the way. I have to say.
Superb.
I wouldn't do it for love nor money.
Not for diamonds. And people can say, but sure, it's only a matter of putting the thing into the computer and it's fixtures. Absolutely not. And then
nonsense.
Kevin Regan rings the secretary Loughlin Bridge. We've a wedding here. Can we change a fixture and stuff? So nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
All I think about was the Rattling Bog song. The tree in the hole and the hole in the bog and the bog, because all the parts are moving, like, and you have to 100%. Try get them all together and get a fixture.
100%.
Should we just rock up and turn on a microphone and do a podcast as well? Isn't it great? It's grand and handy. There's no tripods, there's no equipment, there's nothing. Or if people only knew.
In fairness, you do great work. So you're to be commended.
You don't have to sit. You're still getting a few wobbly.
As long as it's in a brown envelope, there's no panic, Kev.
It's under there somewhere.
But on your point around the time of the game and all, number one, I'd say it was already penciled in that it was going to be on the Saturday, and I'd say for lads involved in teams in county finals, right, lads that took off maybe today from work in advance of, and now realised they've taken annual leave or whatever.
Can I cancel the rest of it?
Are now delighted that the match is on a Saturday, and at least if there's a win or a loss, they've the Sunday to deal with it and maybe go back to work on the Monday. I don't know. I think it's just an interesting. The whole dynamic changes. Like the 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon mightn't suit lads either. Like, even in terms of your,
you won't keep everyone happy.
No, but even you're over a team, right? And every game you played during the championship has been evening time in Dr. Cullen Park. So in terms of lads getting their meal preparation right and hydrating and getting into the real sports science of it, from that point of view, 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening is probably what they've been playing all year long. So will it actually allow for a more flowing game of football because it's lads are into the routine of it and have been doing it all year? Maybe there's something in it. Switch to Camogie from Sunday to a Saturday with a week's notice.
Not a week's notice. At the time of the arrangement, you could have put in that stipulation.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, we're all experts, aren't we?
Experts.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, and I'm always surprised at how serious some people take this podcast. We don't even take it serious, really. I mean, we try to get our content. We're serious about getting our content right and production values and all that. But in terms of the opinion, it's just a fucking opinion.
Okay. But how many lads will take what you and I are saying unbelievably serious, and if you were to ask them to come on and speak their mind, they'd run a mile. So
it's a bit of crack. That's the way I look at it.
And come here, you played to some kind of a level. I never did. So I'm a literal hurler on the ditch here. Having a conversation, but one thing you and I both love is talking about football, talking about hurling, whatever it is, even rallying and
4-1 and a few bits. It's a bit of crack, but
not real sports.
Controversial enough.
Come at me, rally people.
A few lads out there, would it say? But I guess there's a couple of things. Then I'm not going to really ask you for a verdict because your own club is involved in it. But can you come to expect a little bit more of an open game? And God forbid, but could it be decided on penalties? Of course it could be. Could be. I don't think it'll be a draw next day. I'd say we'll have a winner after 60 minutes. I don't think we'll need extra time. And the team that will win it, the most obvious thing I can state, is the team that will learn the most from the draw game, right? In 2002, the first game was Philippe Hall. First game was a draw. Now we're talking 22 years ago. Literally a different sport, right? But just in interesting comparison, for the replay, Rafaeli had
think it was 2 changes. I think it was 2 corner forwards were changed for the replay. The scoreline was almost exactly the same both days, 22 years ago. So, like, a whole lot might not change, but I think the team that obviously learns the most, and crucially, I think the team that leaves the fear at the door and forgets about making the mistake, the team that says, right, lads, as a collective, just leave everything out in the field there. How many more cliches can I squeeze in a minute, Kev?
Well,
and take it by the scruff of the neck.
That's fair enough. Can you remember, did Pal or Rathvilly get the equaliser or not? Who got the equaliser? And I have a reason for asking. I actually can't off the top of my head.
I'm nearly sure we got the equaliser.
Yeah, I'm going somewhere with this, right? So you fast forward then to, I think the next replay. Was the next replay 2 years after that? Now, this actually eradicates my theory. Fenny equalised and lost it, right? But in most of the finals in recent times then, go back to 2010, I think O'Loughlin equalised against, he didn't end, went on and won it the next day. Cormac Mullins equalised against Rathvilly, and in 2017, I think it was, yeah, and they went on and won it the next day. I wonder, is there any sort of a form going to be going on that?
I hope so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're hopeful,
so,
yeah. I do think there's a lot more in Rathvilly, personally, right? I think there's a bit more in Pal as well. I really hate having to do verdicts, like, it's not something I'm a fan of at all. But I do think because there's more in Rathvilly, I think they possibly could do it. But I think Pal have serious pace and deserve probably a little bit more credit than perhaps what they've got for a lot of stages this season. Yeah,
no, look, it'll obviously be absolutely fascinating. Like, my heart obviously says Rathvilly.
Yeah.
How could it be any other way? If I was to try and look at it objectively and somehow try to be neutral, like, looking at the way the two teams have performed all year, like, Rathvilly, first of all, lost to Pal first round championship, got over Clonmore, and a draw with Rogue. So, like, a completely mixed bag of fortunate results and performances more so than anything. The Bagnallstown game, I think, probably have to draw a line through it because Bagnallstown were just so poor.
Very poor, yeah.
And no disrespect to them, but they just didn't turn up on the day. The O'Loughlin game, Rathvilly were in control of it for so long, but were not able to peel away. They
were more convincing winners than what the scoreline suggested.
Yeah.
So they made it hard on themselves. Yeah.
And on the other side of things, Pal, like a Rolls Royce of a job, 100% record all the way through the championship. So now you've your team after, I won't say cruising, but team after being very, very convincing all the way through, and a team not really getting momentum, and they both get to the final. It stands to reason, to me, that the team with the mixed bag of results has less to lose. And for that reason, I think Rathvilly will hopefully be looking at it and thinking, you know, we have a second bite at the cherry here. We have to go and take this, and it may, from a Rathvilly point of view, hopefully that's what'll happen. From the Pal point of view, you know, would some people in Pal be thinking to themselves, "Geez, we were 2 points up with whatever to go and didn't see it out," and for that reason, will they feel they left it behind them? It's so hard to know.
Well, body language counts for an awful lot. If you look at the body language of the two teams coming off, there was one team a lot happier than the other. We had a hurling final that ended up a draw, didn't we, with St Mullins, equalising late on against Rangers, and you saw what happened that day. Look, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does, but we're sure looking forward to it, and I'm sure you'll be on duty for us. I'm actually away this weekend with a wedding, so and while we're on that topic, Dottie and Karina, the very best luck to yous. Looking forward to enjoying that one. But at the same time, so you'll be looking after stuff, and we're grateful for that. And Stephen Barmerick on reports and everyone that's contributed to the left wing back, I want to thank them while we're on this topic. We'll have another podcast, of course, next week, but just gives me the opportune time. Very quickly before we finish up, just to give a bit of a clue, I suppose, for our Valhalla Saunas left wing back players of the year for this year. And specifically, I think that because we're in football season, we might actually just chat about that. I've already given the contender for young player of the year with Jake Nolan, but I wanted to just talk about footballer of the year, and I'll start with senior. And I have a very interesting question for you. Do you ever recall a time where a goalkeeper got player of the year?
No.
Well, on that basis, and not just because he designs our website, genuinely, I think Craig Carney's been excellent this year. I think he's been really good, kick-outs wise, shot stopping, Crucial intervention as well yesterday, actually. It might have looked nonchalant, but it was crucial. Steady coming out with the ball at a time where it looked like he was in bother. I think he's a contender from my point of view. Eric Malloy, I would suggest, is possibly another one from the Rathvilly side. There are several others. Any you want to name drop?
I tell you, they got relegated, but Shane Murphy was an unbelievable leader for Clonmore. And if Clonmore had 15 Shane Murphys, there's no doubt they'd still be senior, first of all, and probably be contending.
Mikey Barmbrick was phenomenal this year.
He's frighteningly quick and so strong on the ball.
So consistent.
Yeah, has to be up there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Josh Egan's been very good for Paul, hasn't he?
Absolutely super.
Shane O'Neill up to
more
enough the game yesterday, but I wouldn't begrudge him being in contention over it.
I think Finn Barkhavna.
Yeah, he's been very good.
He's one of these players that kind of like a Dennis Irwin of a lad.
Jamie Kenny as well.
But Barkhavna is nearly always a 7 or 8 out of 10 kind of player. He'll never be a 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
And maybe doesn't kick the worldies to get him the notice that other lads get, but absolutely. And like
Kevin Murphy, like you said, top scorer, contender possibly.
Maybe, up there. Like I have to give a shout out to Jamie Clark for Bagenalstown. Like Bagenalstown have had a poor championship, but Jamie Clark, like, and at times sometimes seems to be on one leg with the hardship he gets.
I'm going to drop down the grades then, right? So Pádraig Hines for me is definitely a contender as well.
Super footballer.
Sean Murphy. I think Jake Nolan could be a contender for actual footballer of the year as well as young footballer of the year. For what it's worth, he's definitely in the mix. Down junior then, I suppose like the like of an Aidan Lillis has been brilliant. Conor Lacey for Loughlin has been excellent as well. A contender for young and overall footballer, I would say. I didn't see a bag full of junior games this year now, to be quite honest with you. But, Ballin's performances, I think McCaffrey at centre back is probably a contender. Evan Core is possibly a contender as well. And obviously we're naming out finalists here now. There's like period of good year with Aske, Dara with Kilbride, Dara Foley. Like the Cox, like Matty Dowling still going strong there, right? Glenn O'Rourke had a couple of big games there. The Blues, Danny Thompson, really good. We could go on and on and on and
really
on.
Good. Yeah, even in terms of I thought, I think I mentioned him already. Alex Callahan, very good for Callahan this year. Like such a young chap. Who else have you? Barry Hickey. I think you mentioned him earlier as well. And the player of the year, it's such like
John Murphy for Grange again, very consistent.
Throughout the year, footballer. And the thing with footballer,
Ned Pender actually is another good shout. He scored a lot of great goals.
And another 7-8 out of 10 guy, always 7-8 out of 10.
Brian Byrne and Jack Kennedy, good years as well. I would think Brian was unfortunate, possibly with a few frees in the knockout stages, but like definitely someone that springs to mind. It's hard to get around to try and think of contenders, but we're after giving a bag full there from all the grades.
I'm trying to think of some of the Michael lads as well that were to perform well.
Look, who do you think your nominations are? info@leftwingback.com. Email them to us, and thanks again to Valhalla Saunas. I think we're just about ready to wrap up.
Just about, I suppose on player of the year, like Pádraig Bulger is a prime example of someone who can be like have one hand on the trophy of player of the year, and then maybe a red card.
Still in the mix.
But that could throw it out. The chap's name escapes me. Got the black card yesterday. For Loughlin Bridge.
Lee Conran.
Like, how important was he to Loughlin Bridge the whole year? And does that particular moment?
Nah, not at all.
Do you know what I mean?
Pádraig Bulger and Lee Conran, I would say, are very much in the mix.
Like Mousy O'Leary scores the penalty that wins Ball in the final. But as I said in his interview, he was getting 15 minutes here and there all year. So you can't, based on one match or one moment, pick a lad. But the people out there will know better than us.
It. Everyone can have their say anyway. That's what we're all about. We're a podcast with the people here, not just people of the people. But anyway, look, on that particular note, we'd like to thank all our kind sponsors, of course, but in particular today to Talbot Hotel in Carlow here for putting us up and providing the hospitality for today's episode. We look forward to the Senior Football Championship Final Replay this weekend. Of course, The Camogie Finals are on, as we mentioned. Keep an eye on leftwingback.com, and of course, if you want to get in touch with us, info@leftwingback.com is our email address, or you can drop us a DM at the Left Wing Back on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. I refuse to call it anything other than Twitter. Brian O'Donoghue, thanks a million.